The following audio may contain coarse language and other material that may not be suitable for a younger audience. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, we may spoil anything and everything, so you have been warned.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Movie Gang Podcast, or at least one part of it, review of Captain America Civil War. We'll have a full review when the film comes out, but I was lucky enough to see it early, and we thought, hey, why don't I tack this on? So this is Ben, and this will be a spoiler review. That is right, a spoiler review, one more time, so that you have no excuse. This will be a spoiler review of Captain America Civil War, which I got to see. I really enjoyed this film quite a bit. I have not seen Age of Ultron, and I will say, if you haven't seen Age of Ultron and you see this film, it is tough because so much of it comes from it, but that's part of what makes it really interesting. It definitely is trying to do a Batman vs. Superman thing where the events of the last film really influence the events of this film. So the reason in the comics, I believe, is for the Civil War is you have to identify yourself as a superhero or something like that. Whereas in this one, they have to be a part of the UN because of the events of Age of Ultron, all the death toll that happened from it. And what I really liked about this partially is that the death toll feels real. Batman vs. Superman kind of had this weird mix where they both hated Superman but loved him and built monuments to him and never quite felt like they knew exactly where they were going with it. With this one, it really does feel like a lot of the public is against the Avengers, and they really kind of stick to each person feeling the guilt. Maybe not everybody is quite justified in their reasoning, especially Tony is someone I can see a lot of people having trouble with, particularly his initial investment where a woman comes up and says, "This is my son, he died in the events of Age of Ultron, it's your fault," and he's the one who's kind of the main figure who's in line with the government here. And this time the government is replaced with the Secretary of State, who's the general in Incredible Hulk, which is kind of nice to see him come back. Overall, I really enjoyed this film, not just because of Batman vs. Superman. I think even Batman vs. Superman was good. I would like this film quite a bit because one thing I love about it is it really balances the action well. There's a great sequence in the airport, which you've seen in all the trailers, where you have Spider-Man fighting Iron Man, or he's on Iron Man's side, but fighting Captain America, and Hawkeye fighting Vision, and everyone really balances himself out really well, and really kind of goes, okay, what would Iron Man do if he fought Ant-Man, and what would Spider-Man do if he fought Falcon, and all these things that are really clever. In particular, I really like the tone of it. I especially like that sort of the smaller characters, the ones you wouldn't expect, get some of the biggest moments. I mean, the moment where Ant-Man becomes Giant Man is just really cool. And Black Panther is just freaking fantastic. I really like Chadwick Boseman already, and he just weaved in the story so well. Also, I was really impressed with Daniel Bruhl. I know some people might be upset because he doesn't look like his character, and he's very different, but he's really fascinating. He's just a normal guy who has some military training, obviously, and has skills, but isn't a super villain. He doesn't have a big plan. He just really wants to mess up the Avengers. And I think the biggest controversy, which I guess I'll address here, is the ending of the film. It's revealed that the Winter Soldier killed, when he was in Winter Soldier phase, killed Tony Stark's parents, and Captain America knew. And he admits that he knows, and that's what kind of sets up the final act. I really like this a lot. I know some people think it might betray Captain America and his good-heartedness, but I think it really fits along with his character. I think he really is a guy who thought that it was better for Tony to not know, because he knows that Tony's not a person who really responds to reason quite well, and he's not somebody who is capable of seeing the bigger picture all the time. And I think Captain America feels that way. And also Captain America often comes across as arrogant in a lot of ways. I think that might be the one complaint, is that Captain America is too often in the right in this movie. I do think they try to balance it really well about who should be who, and who should be fighting who, and who's on the wrong, who's on the right, and what reasons. But I don't think Captain America 100% gets it, especially by the end when all the Avengers are in this terrible prison, and Scarlet Witch, this poor character you're supposed to feel sympathy for, is in a straitjacket. It's hard not to feel like, okay, Tony, you fucked up, you know what I mean, by the end. But I really like the film. I like that the film doesn't end with everybody together. I really like that the action was so well balanced. I like the humor, but towards the end, there's no more humor. When it gets to the part where Tony's trying to kill Winter Soldier, it's played deadly serious, and the ending is also played very deadly serious as well, and it leads to a very, very interesting conclusion, which part of the problem with Marvel is that they often don't really set it up. Iron Man 3 sort of infamously had an ending that seemed really interesting, but was completely lost because, we need Tony back. So I don't know if necessarily the way they leave it is going to bring the best possible Infinity War film. They might just shovel it aside and be like, all right, let's get back together. But for what it's worth, I think the film is very, very good. And I liked it even a little bit more than Winter Soldier. I think Winter Soldier was a little bit more surprising to people because they didn't know that Captain America could be such an interesting character, and they weren't expecting the Russo brothers to really develop such great action sequences. But I think the advantage this has over that is that I don't think Hydra's plan really was that effective or narratively that interesting. It really did feel like it was just, hey, Captain America, fight some bad guys to me. I don't know. I see some people compare it to like 70s political thrillers, but I just never found that. Whereas this, I really thought the villain's plan was really emotional and interesting, and thank God they had a Marvel villain that actually you'll probably remember and that kept along. So, not perfect like any Marvel film, but I was really, really impressed with this, and there are sequences I would like to see again, which is not something I can say for like 90% of other Marvel films. So it's just really impressive, and I hope, I know everybody's going to see it, but I hope people appreciate the talent that went into it, because I was someone who was getting tired of Marvel. I didn't see Avengers Age of Ultron. I didn't really find Ant-Man all that interesting. I'm kind of done with the shows, but this one really, really worked for me, and I hope people feel the same. So that is my spoiler review of Captain America Civil War. I can't even remember what movies they are anymore. All right, thanks, guys.